my neighbor showed up at my door and ordered, "Stop cooking outside, the smell goes into my yard, and I don't like it." When I refused, she scoffed, "Then I'll report you for air pollution." I smirked, pointed at her chimney, and said, "Perfect, because that wood-burning fireplace of yours is actually illegal. I live in a quiet neighborhood in Denver, Colorado. The houses are close enough that you can hear your neighbors if they speak loudly, but far enough apart to afford some privacy. Denver, like many cities, has regulations about wood-burning fireplaces due to air quality concerns. I enjoy cooking outdoors. There's something about grilling that brings me peace. The sizzle of meat on the grill, the aroma wafting through the air, it's therapeutic. My backyard has a modest setup, a small grill, a table, and some chairs. I often invite friends over for barbecues, and it's become a cherished routine. One Saturday afternoon, as I was marinating some chicken for the grill, I heard a knock on my door. I opened it to find my neighbor, a woman in her late 50s named Margaret. She had a stern expression. "Hello, Margaret. How can I help you?" I asked, wiping my hands on a towel. She didn't waste any time. "I need you to stop cooking outside. The smell goes into my yard, and I don't like it." I was taken aback. "I'm sorry if the smell bothers you, but I'm in my backyard on my property. I don't think it's unreasonable to grill occasionally." She crossed her arms. "It's more than occasional. And if you don't stop, I'll report you for air pollution." I couldn't help but smirk. "Margaret, you have a wood-burning fireplace, don't you?" She looked surprised. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Well, Denver has strict regulations about wood-burning fireplaces because of air quality issues. In fact, on certain high-pollution days, using them is illegal." "So if we're talking about air pollution, your fireplace might be more of a concern than my grill." Her face turned red. "Are you threatening me?" "Not at all," I replied calmly. "Just pointing out that we both have activities that produce smoke. If you report me, I might have to mention your fireplace." She huffed and turned on her heel, marching back to her house. I sighed, hoping that would be the end of it. But the next day, I received a letter from the Homeowners Association, HOA, stating that a complaint had been filed against me for outdoor cooking. They requested a meeting to discuss the issue. At the meeting, I presented my case. I explained that grilling was a common activity and that I always ensured safety and cleanliness. I also mentioned Margaret's wood-burning fireplace and the city's regulations. The HOA members listened and then deliberated. After a while, they concluded that occasional outdoor cooking was permissible, especially since there were no specific HOA rules against it. They did, however, advise both Margaret and me to be considerate of each other's concerns. I thought that was the end of it. But Margaret began to escalate things. She would play loud music late at night, knowing I had to wake up early for work. She'd let her dog bark incessantly. It was clear she was trying to make my life miserable. I documented everything. Every noise complaint, every disturbance. After a month, I approached the HOA with my records. They took my complaints seriously and warned Margaret about her behavior. Feeling vindicated but exhausted, I decided to extend an olive branch. I invited Margaret over for a barbecue, hoping to mend fences. To my surprise, she accepted. Over grilled chicken and roasted vegetables, we talked. She admitted she had been feeling lonely since her husband passed away, and my gatherings made her feel more isolated. I apologized for not realizing her feelings, and we came to an understanding. From then on, I made it a point to invite her over whenever I grilled. She even started enjoying the barbecues, and our relationship improved significantly. It's easy for misunderstandings to escalate, but sometimes, a simple conversation can bridge the gap. And in this case, a good meal helped too. Things were calm for a while. We weren't best friends, but Margaret and I were civil. I even saw her smile once during a cookout, holding a plate of ribs like she actually belonged there. That lasted maybe a month. Then, like flipping a switch, she turned cold again. It started when I installed a new smoker. Nothing fancy, just something I'd been saving up for. I kept it neat, tucked away in the corner of my yard, away from the fence we shared. The first time I used it, I did a brisket. It was a full-day job. Low and slow. That smell, deep, smoky, rich, filled the air. She came out halfway through, walked straight up to the fence, and just stood there. "You're doing it again," she said, arms crossed, face blank. "I'm just cooking," I replied. "On my side. Like always." "That's not just cooking," she snapped. "That's aggressive. That's inconsiderate." I didn't know how to respond to that. "Aggressive? It's meat, not warfare." She stormed off. I figured maybe the smell brought back bad memories or something. Tried to give her space. The next morning, I found a dead squirrel in my smoker. No blood, no bite marks. Just a squirrel. Lying right on the grates. Now, I'm not quick to accuse, but that didn't feel like an accident. I didn't have the camera set up yet, so I couldn't prove anything. I buried the squirrel, cleaned the smoker top to bottom, and let it slide. For now. Then came the trash. Small pieces of meat bones, greasy napkins, and chicken skins started appearing in my yard. Always tossed over the fence. Always late at night. I set up a camera. 3 nights later I caught her. Dressed in her robe, barefoot, creeping through her backyard like a raccoon. She tossed the half-eaten chicken leg right over the fence, and walked away like she didn't just break every unspoken neighborhood rule. I printed the footage and brought it to the HOA. Again. They called her in for a meeting. She showed up with a folder full of complaints. About me. She claimed the smell from my cooking triggered her migraines, caused her dog to bark nonstop, and made her house smell like a rundown truck stop. She even claimed I had people over every weekend who were aggressively laughing. Not just loud, aggressively. Whatever that means. The HOA told her they'd look into it. Told me the same thing. Neutral, as always. I decided I was done playing nice. I called the city about the fireplace. Turns out she had never registered it. In Denver, you're supposed to register your wood-burning appliance. And there's a seasonal ban on non-certified wood-burning stoves from November through March. Her fireplace? Definitely not certified. I filed the report. I didn't lie. Just gave them the facts. A week later, a city inspector showed up. I watched from my window as he knocked on her door. She answered, still in a robe. He showed her his badge and clipboard. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see her face go stiff. She didn't look at me for 2 weeks after that. No trash. No midnight chicken bombs. Just silence. Then one night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to flashing lights. 2 fire trucks. 1 ambulance. A dozen neighbors outside in their pajamas. Margaret's house. Smoke billowing from the chimney, thick and black. They got the fire out fast. Turns out it started in the chimney, creosote buildup. Happens when you don't clean it. No one was hurt, thank God. But she was furious. The next day, I found a note shoved under my door. You did this. Nothing else. No name. No threats. Just those 3 words, scrawled in shaky handwriting. I showed it to the HOA. Showed it to the cops, too. But without a signature or witnesses, they couldn't do much. Now it's quiet again. Too quiet. I still grill. Still invite friends over. But I moved the smoker closer to the house. Installed motion lights. Got a second camera. I don't trust her. Not anymore. About 2 weeks after the chimney fire, I noticed something weird on my back gate. A faint smear of something dark, sticky, maybe barbecue sauce or something similar, but with a strange smell. I assumed it was another petty move from Margaret. I washed it off and didn't think much of it. Then a week later, a city inspector showed up again, this time at my door. He had a clipboard and a small camera hanging around his neck. Said he was there to follow up on an anonymous complaint about excessive smoke emissions and illegal outdoor cooking appliances. I knew immediately who made the complaint. I invited him to the backyard and walked him through everything. My grill, the smoker, the fuel I used, nothing was out of order. I had all the original receipts. I even showed him the product manuals that specifically mentioned city compliance. He nodded, took a few photos, and said it was all fine. He seemed mildly annoyed that someone had wasted his time. But then he paused before leaving. "You got someone mad at you, don't you?" he asked casually. "Something like that." He just shook his head. "She's wasting the city's time. If it keeps up, we'll have to file harassment." That made me pause. Harassment. Now there was an idea. But I didn't go that route yet. I figured she'd get bored eventually. People like her usually do. Except she didn't get bored. She got smarter. My friend Jordan came over for a barbecue the following weekend. He pulled into the driveway and within minutes came inside with a pale face. "Hey man," he said. "Your back tire's slashed." Sure enough, I walked out and saw a gash in the sidewall. Not just a flat cut. Clean. A deliberate slice. I checked my outdoor camera footage, and there she was. Hooded sweatshirt. Kitchen knife in hand. She ducked under the shadow of her fence, reached through a crack in the slats, and jabbed the tire in one quick move. Finally, I had something real. I brought the footage to the police. They took it seriously this time. A couple days later, I saw a cruiser pull into her driveway. An officer got out and knocked. She came to the door. There was shouting. She tried slamming the door, but they stopped it with a boot. She ended up with a citation for vandalism and a formal warning. I heard the words, "restraining order," thrown around. That seemed to cool things, for about a week. Then came the biggest twist. The HOE president, Mr. Callahan, stopped by unexpectedly. He was sweating bullets, holding a file folder like it was radioactive. "You might want to see this," he said. Inside were printed screenshots. Emails. Photos. Pages from Nextdoor and Facebook community groups. Margaret had been on a smear campaign. She created multiple fake accounts accusing me of everything from animal abuse to cooking meth in my smoker. Some of it was so ridiculous I laughed out loud, like one post claiming I was running an illegal grilled meat cult. But some accusations were serious, claiming I was exposing children to dangerous smoke levels, that I was poisoning neighborhood pets with chemical meat fumes. What hit hardest? She had doctored a photo of my backyard, edited in a cloud of dark smoke, and sent it to city officials and the HOA. "She's manipulating everything," Callahan said, rubbing his temples. "We didn't believe it at first. But someone from another HOA caught her posting the same thing in their neighborhood forum. She's been doing this for years. That's when I found out Margaret had moved 6 times in the last 10 years. Every time, she left after fights with neighbors. There were reports, police visits, restraining orders, civil complaints, but nothing that ever stuck long enough to shut her down. I went straight to a lawyer. We started gathering everything: videos, messages, the doctored photos, the tire footage, the history from her previous neighborhoods. The goal was simple: file for a restraining order and start a civil suit for harassment and damages. We served her the papers a few days later. That night I heard glass break. I ran outside. My back patio light had been shattered by a brick. Wrapped around it? A note: "This is far from over." She was spiraling. Everyone could see it. But that wasn't the worst part. 2 nights later, I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to the smell of smoke. I panicked. Ran outside. Nothing was on fire, but there was smoke rolling over the fence into my yard. She was burning something in her fire pit. It wasn't wood. It smelled chemical, artificial, plastic maybe, or treated wood. I gagged. Called 911. By the time the fire crew got there, she had dumped water on it. But the smell lingered. They gave her a hefty fine and wrote it up as an environmental hazard. She screamed at them the entire time. And the next morning, I found another note taped to my front door. "You think this is bad? You haven't seen anything yet. After the last note, I didn't sleep much. I kept the porch lights on all night. Installed 2 more cameras. I even bought a steel mailbox after someone, probably her, shoved what looked like raw meat into the old one. I started checking every corner of my yard every morning. I was exhausted. Tired of looking over my shoulder. My life was starting to revolve around Margaret and her madness. But I wasn't innocent either. The moment I called the city on her fireplace, I knew it was war. Maybe I could have walked away. Maybe I should have. But something about the way she looked at me, like I was a problem to erase, flipped a switch in me. I wasn't going to back down. The lawsuit took weeks to build, but once we filed, her reaction was instant. Screaming matches in her yard. Cursing my name at the top of her lungs. One time, she stood on her back porch at 1 a.m. yelling, "He's a monster!" over and over. Nobody came out to stop her. Most neighbors already hated her. Then something happened I didn't expect. My lawyer called me early one morning. "Did you see the news?" No. I had just woken up. There was a fire. Not just a chimney thing. Her house. It's gone. I turned on the TV. Margaret's home had burned to the ground in the middle of the night. Firefighters said it started in the basement. Electrical, they thought. It spread fast. She got out safe, but she lost everything. They said she was found barefoot, covered in soot, screaming in the street. I didn't know how to feel. Relieved? Maybe. But then the cops showed up. At my door. They asked if I had been home. I had. My cameras could prove it. But they were asking because someone tipped them off, said I had motive. Margaret told them I did it. I handed over all my security footage, timestamped, backed up. I wasn't even near her place. Still, it shook me. That she would burn her house down, intentionally or not, and try to drag me down with it. The police couldn't charge me, obviously. But she kept showing up in public telling anyone who'd listen that I did it. That I ruined her life. I stayed quiet. Let my lawyer handle everything. Then came the court date. She walked in wearing a wrinkled dress, hair a mess, eyes wild. I hadn't seen her like that before. She looked broken. The judge listened to everything, the complaints, the footage, the notes, the tire slashing, the harassment online. Even her past came up, past restraining orders, her history with neighbors, the city she'd left behind. When it was my turn, I didn't say much. Just the truth. That I tried to be nice. That she pushed until I snapped. That maybe I should have let it go, but I didn't. In the end, the judge granted the restraining order. Said she had to stay 500 feet away. She had to pay part of my legal fees. She lost the house anyway. The insurance company denied her claim after finding out the fire started with illegal wiring and violations. She was homeless. Angry. Still blaming me. And then came the final twist. A month later, I got a call from a local reporter. Margaret had been arrested for stalking. Not me, another neighbor in her temporary housing. She had tried to burn his patio furniture after he asked her to quiet down one night. She was in jail. The reporter asked if I wanted to go on record. I declined. Because by then, I was done. I sold my smoker. I stopped grilling for a while. But eventually, one quiet Sunday, I fired it up again. Just me and a steak. The smell drifted into the air. No complaints. No shouting. No notes. Just peace. And maybe that was the real revenge. She wanted control. She lost everything trying to get it. And I still had my grill.